Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honor Thy Podcast. This is the weekly DCTV Arrowverse podcast that we do here every single week where we discuss everything Arrowverse. I'm your host, Declan McKinney. You may know me as the host of DC Central. And with me, as not always, this time around, is ComiChris.
Thanks, Declan, for having me on. Excited to talk about Arrowverse shows today.
No worries. Obviously, you may notice that a voice is missing from the lineup this week. That is, of course, Dan. He is away. He's also going to be away next week, so I'm going to have another special guest on next week in replacement for him. But obviously, you guys will know Chris. He's a big guy here in the DCTV community. He has his own comic book line. Obviously, do you want to talk about that?
Comic book line. You talk about my YouTube channel or my actual?
Just all of it.
So obviously, ComiChris. Some of you probably heard of me. Some of you probably haven't. So yeah, I have a YouTube channel. Talk about DCTV, talk about Marvel stuff. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to my channel, go over there. I'm sure Declan will probably leave a link in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, and Chris is a great guy. He does a lot of great content, so make sure you go follow the link, which I'll put in the description at the end of this video. And also, I do apologize for my voice. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you'll know I'm just about coming over a cold at the moment, so my voice is not quite up to scratch as it normally is. So I do apologize for any coughing or sneezing you may hear during the process of this next hour and a half or so. So anyway, let's start off with the news as always. Pretty dead as far as news goes this week. The only news we could really find, and this wasn't really like an official news piece, but it's more something that's just interesting to talk about, is the Flash ratings have dipped lower. Well, they've gone to a series low. Not only for episode 16, but again, apparently for episode 17. So it got a series low for episode 16, and then again an episode low for episode 17. So it's getting worse and worse for the Flash this season. So I guess the big question is, Chris, why do you think this is?
It has to do with the storyline. The storyline's hasn't really been that engaging, hasn't really been that interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Last week's episode 16, when they revealed that there was another cicada, like I literally predicted that was gonna happen. I literally predicted what was gonna happen. That especially with the reveal, I said immediately, this is Cicada's daughter from the future. Like it was predictable.
Yeah.
So it's nothing really. I was thinking about this. I was literally thinking about this the other day. Like the other day, I was watching back from season 1, and it just made me sad because from where we were in season 1 to where we are now, it's just taken a significant dive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A significant dive. Like season 1, it lost its identity.
Yeah.
So like, oh yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it does feel that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I just hope like season 5 they can somehow bring that magic back. I don't think they will, but no, wait, hold on. We are in season 5. Sorry, season 6. Somehow they can bring that magic back. I feel like they can. Arrow, they did, because remember in Arrow with season 3 and season 4, those were Arrow's 2 seasons. So you weren't really expecting to its ways. But then season 5 came along, and wow, in my opinion, one of the best Arrowverse seasons that we've had.
Yeah, I think season 5 was incredible. It's because, like you say, nobody really expected season 5 of Arrow to be as good as it was, especially coming off of season 4. And then when it came out, especially because I think season 5 of Arrow was kind of make or break for a lot of people.
Yes, it was. It was.
Like for the people who actually did stick around, because obviously Arrow lost a huge amount of its fan base in season 4, and it's never really recovered from it. I don't think, ratings wise.
No.
But the people who did stick around, I think, were obviously very heavily treated. With season 5.
Yeah, 100%. Like season 4, in my opinion, is one of the worst CW shows. Now, when season 5 came around, they turned it around. So I feel like if Arrow can do it, then Flash can do it in season 6. But regarding season 5, the story, it hasn't dragged on for too long. Cicada, in my opinion, he's not a season-long villain. No. In my opinion,
no.
They should have. He should have been defeated a long time ago.
Especially when in so many episodes they have the opportunity to do so, and he just flies off.
Exactly. So that's why It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think that next season is going to be another speedster villain, which, in my opinion, I feel like that's what they should do. Like we've had 2 seasons now where speedster villain, because obviously season 4 was Defoe, season 5 was Cicada, and in my opinion, none of them really landed. And I know before season 4, we were all clamoring for the show to go a different path. Remove itself from having another speedster villain. But I feel like now that we've had villains in a row that hadn't really hit the mark, I feel like the show probably does work best when it has a speedster villain.
Yeah, I think obviously it is funny, like you say, because obviously around the time of season 3, around the time of us dealing with Savitar, we were kind of all talking about, oh, let's get a non-speedster villain. And then obviously for season 4 we got the Thinker, which the Thinker was really cool, I think, in the first half of the season. But then as soon as they introduced the body hopping thing, that's when it lost me. Because he just became just your average metahuman rather than this really intelligent, very different threat.
I agree with that.
They kind of redeemed it at the end, but it didn't make up for the damage that was already done. And then Cicada, for me, has been dreadful. I've not liked him at all. I remember when, way before the season even started, there was obviously all the leaks that came out about Cicada being the villain. And I remember even being back then, I just thought to myself, I was thinking about this character being the villain, the big bad of the season. I just thought, I just don't see it. It's not something that I particularly care about. It doesn't sound that interesting to me. And Cicada has just not been interesting at all. I think he's been incredibly dull, flat, boring, and just doesn't have the right motivation. And I think the problem as well comes down to Chris Klein. And I don't want to say too many bad things about him, but you've been able to tell he's been incredibly overdoing it, and his acting is very comical at times. Because of how over the top he goes. And I think another problem, which I said this on last week's podcast, but Barry and Cicada never actually had a face-to-face moment until last episode. Which
really?
Well, what I mean by that is like unmasked, because because what always makes these villains better is when you have a personal connection with them. Like obviously Eobard Thawne was a personal connection, but when it was Harrison Wells, obviously Zoom, Savitar in a way, and then like Barry and the Thinker, they were like, obviously say what you want about the Thinker, but I think the connection between him and Barry, their chemistry was so good, because they established that early on. Cicada, they've never had just Barry and Orlin have a conversation together until last episode. And I think that was a problem as well. It's just like Cicada never seemed like this big villain. He was always just this recurring threat. And that storyline has just not been able to keep people watching. I have a good friend who has actually recently stopped watching the show. It lost him. And I think that proves why these ratings are dropping, is people just don't care. And I think people were ready for the Cicada storyline to wrap up, and I think people thought we were going to get that. And then when Grace shows up as Cicada, which again was incredibly predictable, people just kind of threw their eyes up and said, right, I'm done, I'm out. Because the whole thing was very predictable. Obviously in episode 12, when that was the episode when Nora went into her mind, and they foreshadowed it because they had Grace as Cicada in that episode. And when Cicada came in episode 15 or 16, I thought to myself, I was like, that's got to be Grace, because the costume that she's wearing, her Cicada costume, is different to Orlin's. It's a bit more loose and a bit more rugged, and it's very, very similar to the one that was in episode 12. So I was like, that's got to be Grace. And again, when that moment happened, even I threw my eyes up a bit, and I think a lot of the audience did as well, and that's why the ratings have dropped as low as they have.
I agree. 100% agree. So here's a question for you. What do you think makes a good villain?
I think a good villain has to come down to, again, I think it has to, obviously, understandable motivations, I think is a key one. I think that's a big thing. You have to see where they're coming from. Even if they're not necessarily right, you have to understand from their point of view why they think they're right. I think Marvel do this really well in the MCU with characters like Thanos and Killmonger. Like obviously Thanos in Avengers Infinity War is just an incredible... I mean, obviously he's a madman, but you kind of get where he's coming from, and he kind of has a point. And same with like Killmonger, even though Killmonger really was right. I mean, he was going about it the wrong ways, but he was right. And I feel like, Marvel are really good at doing that, whereas with these, obviously some of the DC villains better than others, like obviously like for example, sticking with the Arrowverse, like Deathstroke on Arrow, we saw him from very early on. We understood his motivations. We saw why he hated Oliver as much as he did. And I feel like going with something like that worked really well. Whereas with Cicada, like obviously you understand where his motivations, but he just kind of seems to come across as very, very angry. He just wants to kill all metahumans, which is kind of unreasonable because, it wasn't even a metahuman really who injured Grace. It was a satellite debris crash. So, that's what I mean. Like, the connection there isn't quite right. So I feel like you really have to understand a villain's motivation for them to be a good villain in my eyes.
100%. For me, I like my favorite kinds of villains are the ones that are. Those are my favorite kinds of villains. Sympathetic. You understand where they're coming from, like you said. You understand their motivation, why they're doing what they're doing. That's, for me, is what makes a good villain. Obviously, not all villains have to be sympathetic. Obviously, Thanos is not a sympathetic villain. No. He's not a thing, but he's a very great villain in my opinion. But yeah, those are just my personal favorite kinds of villains. I just don't think that none of the previous season big bads of the Flash have a good villain. I just don't think so. I just hope that next season, whether it's Red Death or Godspeed or whoever, I don't know, I just hope that they're good, like Reverse Flash and ones. Savitar was a tough one. It was kind of 50-50.
Yeah, he because some people off better than he ended. I think he could have been really cool. It was a good idea, but the thing is, I've said this before, but I don't know if you know about this. But do you know what the original storyline for season 3 was?
Was it that Dr. Alchemy was going to collect metahumans or something for Savitar to build?
Yeah, so and you can see the foundations of this in the beginning of the season, and then you can see about halfway through when they changed it, because they literally changed this halfway through writing the season, and you can see it. I think that original storyline would have been a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been so much better. It's a shame because that original story, I feel, the ending of season 3 much more stronger. It would have made the reveal of Savitar much stronger as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, because like I said, that original storyline sounded really cool, and then it's just around halfway through they changed it to the whole damsel in distress thing.
Yeah, but then again, if they kept that storyline, the metahuman storyline that we're going to do originally, do you think Savitar would have still been Barry from the future?
I really don't know, because I don't know if the writers even knew who Savitar was until like 2 weeks before they wrote it. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of thing is Barry being Savitar was the most predictable option. I think
it was the most predictable option, in my opinion. If they were going to do a Barry is the main villain, they should have saved that for the final season of The Flash.
Yeah, or I think they could have even done that with Zoom. I think it was only a matter of time in my eyes before Barry was the villain. Like a version of Barry was the villain. So eventually we got that with Savitar. I feel like and what annoyed me about Savitar in a way was that obviously it only got revealed in episode 20 that at the very end of episode 20 it was him, and that made Savitar very interesting in the back half in those last few episodes, and we barely got to spend any time with him. And I think it was really interesting, like seeing Grant Gustin having to play double duty and play both roles, and the scenes with Barry and Savitar when he's outside of the suit were actually, especially in the season finale, they were really cool. And I feel like they could have done something really interesting with all that, and then they just didn't. So I think the problem with Savitar, kind of like Cicada in a way, is they just dragged it out too long before they actually revealed it, and people had already lost the interest. I feel like that could be applied to Cicada.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that people lost interest, because season 3 of The Flash was at its peak in terms of interest level.
Yeah,
that was at its peak. But then immediately after season 3, the interest just dropped, and you could see that in viewership, in ratings, in different aspects. So you can see that the interest was not there anymore.
Yeah, it was just very, very obvious because like I remember like back in season 3 around the time, especially in the DCTV community, like everyone was really involved, everybody was really, theorizing and things like that. But then, like I say, when you get to sort of season 4, and especially now in season 5, people don't care, and I think that's a big problem. And I think with season 6, what they're really gonna have to focus on is really just gaining that interest back. Like have a story that is intriguing, that will make people want to come back week after week, rather than having people drop off. Because I think what's a good sign for season 6 is a new showrunner. Obviously, we are getting Eric Wallace. Tom Helbing is stepping down. I think that's a good sign. However, I mean, I mentioned this because I think that was in the news last week, and I think the only problem with that is that Eric Wallace, he joined the Flash around season 4. So he hasn't exactly been around long, and he hasn't been around long because unlike Beth Schwartz, who just took over Arrow, like she's been a writer on the show since day one. So she was a fantastic choice, and I think we can all agree that she's doing an amazing job this season. Eric Wallace, although I'm excited for a fresh pair of eyes, I'm excited for a new fresh take because I feel like that's what the show needs. I'm just interested to see if he can capture that kind of energy, because that's clearly what makes me laugh about season 5 is I think season 5 started out really strong. Like the first episode in particular I thought was fantastic, and I just thought that felt like season 1 to me. But then, like you say, as the season's gone on, it's just lost interest. So I wonder if they'll be able to kind of regain and capture that magic for season 6.
Kind of agree with you on that point. Yeah, the first half of the first few episodes of season 1 was actually pretty good. Did I just say the first episode of season 1? First few episodes of season 5, sorry. Yeah, it was that they were actually pretty good, but then obviously as the season went on, it just felt okay. Here's another question: season 4, season 5, which one was better? Season 5 hasn't ended yet, but
it's hard to judge with the whole season. I really don't know, because the thing is, I think season 4 tried obviously to go really light, and it kind of crossed the line of silliness, whereas 5 kind of regained the tone a bit better. I think 5 overall, although again it's hard to say that because the whole season's not done yet, but I feel like the biggest problem honestly with the Flash season 5 is the villain, because there's so because this storyline's being dragged out. It feels like we're wasting episodes. Like Cicada could have been done with back in episode 11. And we could have been doing like this Nora Eobard Thorne storyline for the rest of the season, and that would have made it feel a bit more natural, I think. But because of this dragged out Cicada thing, if it wasn't for Cicada, I think season 5 would actually be a lot better than we perceive it to be. So I'll say season 5. What about you?
For now, I'll say season 5. Season 4 is just like I feel like the CW is cursed with season 4.
It is, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because Arrow season 4, the Flash season 4. What's season Supergirl on now? Supergirl season 4.
I think the thing is with Supergirl, I mean, obviously we'll get to Supergirl in the review for that in a little bit, but I have to say, Supergirl, especially in this back half, it's been pretty good.
Yes, I agree with that. But then again, but hold on, with Supergirl, my favorite season of Supergirl is season 3. Season 4 is not quite there, but it's actually I'm actually enjoying it. In my opinion, it's well, at least the second half of the season is my second favorite CW show.
Yeah,
this season specifically. In terms
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. And I never thought I'd say that. Especially if you listen to this podcast, obviously we slate Supergirl quite a bit on here. But I've had to stop the past few weeks because I'm genuinely enjoying it. Like this back half of the season, again, we'll get to it in a little bit, but I genuinely think this back half of the season has been great, which I never thought I would say looking at the first half of the season, which I thought was dreadful.
Yeah.
But this back half, like the storyline is just, and I don't know if it's with the introduction of the Elite or anything like that, but it's just everything seems to be coming together a lot better. So yeah, I think I'll agree with that. Supergirl, I think, is the second best, just under Arrow at the moment. Obviously, we'll see how Legends does when it comes back.
It's just one problem that I have with Supergirl, but we'll get to that when we talk about this show. But
yeah. Well, let's go talk about it. Let's jump into it. So, obviously, we're going to be reviewing now Supergirl season 4, episode 15, which was called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" This was the introduction of Lex Luthor finally onto the show. He's been name dropped for years, and we finally got his introduction in this episode. He's played by John Cryer. This was quite a big moment for the show. Obviously, having a character like Lex finally showing up on it. But what did you think about John Cryer? Like, what would you think of his interpretation of Lex?
There's no Michael Rosenbaum. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a high bar.
He's no Michael Rosenbaum, but I like him. He's better than what's his name now?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, that's it. Jesse Eisenberg. He's better. I think he's better than Jesse Eisenberg, or at least from what we saw. But yeah, no Michael Rosenbaum. So somewhere in the middle. I like him.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I remember I was not too happy with the casting, and I remember the first official picture they released I thought was kind of funny, unintentionally. And the introduction of him in this first scene, because the episode opens up with a flashback with him and Lena in Metropolis, and I thought that scene he was kind of overdoing it, and I was thinking, I'm not liking this. But the rest of the episode, when it takes place in present day, I thought he was pretty good. I think he did a great job, actually, especially kind of appearing as like kind of threatening and having kind of a presence to him, which I didn't expect him to have. But what I really like is his dynamic with Lena. I think him and Katie McGrath do a really good job together in their scenes, because their conflict, because Lex is basically dying in this episode, and Lena has the cure to fix him and to heal him, and she is kind of reluctant to do so, because obviously he's a really evil guy, but it's also her brother at the end of the day. So I liked their conflict quite a lot.
I would agree with you. Did you think that? Well, are we talking about spoilers here?
Yeah, go for it.
So at the end of the episode, when obviously there was that twist where obviously Lex took the serum, did you think that Lena could potentially die in there?
Oh, wow. I don't think so, because I've said this before. I think I realized that if, Supergirl has never actually killed a main member of its cast.
That's true.
Like, I thought about this the other week, and it kind of blew my mind, especially because when you look at all the other Arrowverse shows, you normally get, at least one big death a season, usually.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, Supergirl's never actually killed anyone from its main cast. It's always just shipped them off somewhere. Like Wynn obviously left last season, Mon-El left last season. It never actually kills anybody. And even this season, this episode, they had the opportunity to kill James and they didn't do it. So no, I don't think they will kill Lena. Just because, again, history. I don't think they would. No.
I agree with you. I don't think they will, but for a split second, though, they kind of did make you, well, me anyway, they kind of made you kind of think, are they going to do it? Because at the end, when they made that twist, and that, what's her assistant's name again?
Eve Tessmacher.
Yeah. So obviously when she came in and pulled the gun, for a split second, I thought maybe they might just kill her.
Yeah, I thought for a split second, but they do that thing that really annoys me in film and television where somebody has a gun on somebody and they just hold it for like 2 seconds too long. Where they do that and it's just like, and it gets to the point where it's like dragged out by just a second where you realise it's not, where someone's going to crash through the wall or something like that. And I was just like, so I knew it was going to happen. But I do agree with you, actually. Like, that there was a split moment where I thought, oh, damn, is she going to pull the trigger? I have to say, that twist got me. With Eve.
Yeah.
Because Eve is such an unassuming character, and I guess that's why they did it. Because she really, she was in season 1, and as far as I'm aware, as far as I remember, she was not in 2 or 3. But she just come back in season 4, randomly. Yeah. And now she's working for Lex, and it seems like she's been working for Lex the entire time.
It seems like it.
So that was interesting. I didn't expect that. Also, they brought back Otis Graves, which I think was an awful decision. I hate that character. I thought he was pretty, because he was just in the early half of the season. I thought he was dreadful, and now they've brought him back for some reason. I wonder if they'll bring back Mercy. I think they probably will bring back Mercy, given the fact that in the comics she's Lex's bodyguard.
They will, yeah. So
I think we'll see her show up again. But yeah, the whole Lex thing, when he stands up, I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool moment, actually. But then I feel like they, with all the good kind of nature and that they brought up, that they kind of built up with Lex throughout this episode, it kind of got destroyed in that final scene when he walks out with all the. I mean, what did you think about that final scene when he walks out and he has like all those automated guns?
I just thought, when did he have the time to install all them?
Yeah, like it felt a step too far. Like it kind of just like felt like it didn't feel like Lex Luthor to me, because Lex to me is always this incredibly sophisticated, very calm kind of villain, very kind of understated kind of villain, and then there he is coming out of his house, just all these guns with music playing and everything like that. It came across very silly to me.
Yeah, I get where you think that. I get where you think that.
Yeah, it just kind of came across as a bit, yeah, you could have done without that. Now, we also had another storyline this episode where we had Jean finally going after Manchester Black. And I thought this was actually... David Harewood, to me, was the best part of this episode.
He was.
His acting was phenomenal this week. I think, because I really like this connection between Jean and Manchester, because obviously Manchester just irks John in a way that no one else has. And the fact that even Manchester was willing to go to the point of, burning down Marin's grave just to see what Jean would do, I think just shows kind of how just kind of evil of a villain Manchester is. Even I love Manchester Black. I don't know about you, but I think he's one of the best parts about the season.
Yeah, he is. He started off a bit, but as the episodes went along, yeah, I'm starting to like him a lot more now. He's one of the better parts of the season. Do you think that that's it now for him? He's gone.
See, his deaths kind of came across very quick to me. It came across very kind of like it wasn't treated as this big moment, like they had defeated a villain. So I'm not sure. But then I kind of think, how do you come back from that?
Exactly. I feel like he's gone. That's it.
If he is gone, I'm sad in a way, because I like I said, I really like his character. But I think this was quite a good episode to end it on. Just because of everything they've done with him, especially recently. Like, he's been very prevalent the past couple of weeks with the introduction of the Elite as well. So maybe he is gone. I don't know. We could see him come back. I mean, there's been no kind of official announcement or word, but I also think I saw David Ajala, who plays him. I'm pretty sure he's just been cast in another show. So,
what show?
I'm not sure what the name of it is. I think it's a Netflix series, but he. I saw that he was cast for it, and he's had like his hair changed and things like that.
That probably pretty much confirms that he's gone.
Yeah, so I'll take that as word that he's dead. Because like I say, the way he died, I can't really see how you come back from that. So yeah, I think that's probably the way it's going to go. But I like this story though. I thought this was good, and a good conclusion as well. Because again, I think David Harewood was absolutely brilliant in this episode.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Now we also had James in hospital. In this episode, obviously at the end of the last episode, he was shot in the back. He was shot by Manchester as well. I believe that was confirmed in this episode. Now, what was kind of going on in this episode is there's this conflict where James is in hospital. He needs to go into surgery, but they kind of have this conflict where we have his sister introduced, Kelly Olsen, played by Asi Tesfaye, and she just wants to, put him in surgery and hope for the best. But Alex says to her that, best case scenario, he's going to come out paralyzed at least. And whereas we have Lena, who could give him the Hyronel and kind of save him indefinitely. And I thought this was interesting because obviously Kelly doesn't know Lena, doesn't even know Alex. She knows Kara, but that's the only person she knows. And Kara wasn't really on the scene. So I like the fact that Kelly and her motivation was very much, no, I don't trust any of you. I don't know any of you. I'm not just going to believe anything you say. But obviously Alex wanted to do what was best for James as well.
Yeah, definitely. Wait, so is her character just a one-off, or is she coming back?
She's actually just been cast as a series regular for season 5.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought that was strange, because that kind of made me think maybe James is gonna die or was gonna die, because I thought maybe if he dies then she'd be like his replacement character. But no, obviously he survives. So I don't know what kind of role she's gonna have. I don't know what position she's gonna have story wise. It kind of came across to me, that news that we got last season, when they said that Danielle Nicolette, who plays Cecile in The Flash, was cast as a series regular for season 5, and I thought Is that
Funny
really
'cause,
necessary?
it's funny because Cecile's been there since season 1.
Yeah.
I don't think she was in. I think she missed a few seasons and then she
Yeah.
came back. Yeah, it was funny. Sorry, not really. She could have come back as like a recurring character.
Yeah.
Didn't
Recurring
really need
guest
to be a
star.
season. Yeah, didn't really need to be a series regular.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll have to wait and see what kind of role she has. I don't know if she's gonna be in the rest of the season. I don't know if she was just in this episode this season and then she's gonna come back next season. But like I say, she's definitely a regular next season. So again, it just depends what kind of role they're gonna have. Maybe James is gonna go away. Like maybe he's not gonna die. Maybe they'll just send him off. That also could happen. And then Kelly will
Speaking
step in.
of sending off, hold on. We'll talk about that when we'll speak about Flash. But yeah, overall, I think one of, if it's the best, but it's one of them, in my opinion, one of the best of the season, in my opinion. I'm not sure about the best. I have to think about that. But to be fair, I can't really think of, at the top of my head, I can't really think of anything else that would be better. But I really like this episode.
Yeah, I really like this episode. I think it did a really good job of introducing Lex. I think Lex is going to have a big role this season now. Obviously, he seems to be the one who's behind the whole Red Daughter thing. And she's going to be properly introduced next episode, so I'm excited about that. And again, just ending off Manchester and John's storyline in that way was good. Getting introduced to Kelly, obviously getting a good feel for her in this episode, being a regular next season, we're going to have to do that. For me, it is definitely one of the stronger ones. Like I say, I think the past sort of 5 episodes have been great for Supergirl, honestly. I think the best episode of the season, though, still comes down to episode 3, actually. Episode 3 was like the Ben Lockwood origin episode. I thought that episode was brilliant. I honestly believe that episode is the best episode of Supergirl, period.
Oh yeah, I remember that episode. I like that episode. Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, that for me is the best episode of Supergirl, period, regardless of seasons. I thought that episode was fantastic. And what's funny about that is that Supergirl's barely in it. But I think that this episode was still fantastic, really good. And again, this episode really was just, the purpose of it was just to introduce Lex, and I think it did it in a good way, in a strong way, and it had a lot of other good stuff going on as well. So definitely a decent episode on the whole.
It did, and it's funny that you mentioned Red Daughter, because that was the negative thing that I had about this season. Like they introduced her at the end of season 3 twice in the whole season. And they were only for like 10 seconds or whatever, 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where is she? And what did they forget about? Because it feels to me, it feels like they generally forgot about her. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think like at the end of season 3, they had this idea to basically do the Red Daughter storyline and then, or adapt the Superman Red Sun storyline, and then they eventually kind of realized they were going to do this alien versus human thing, and they just kind of forgot about it. Like I don't know. I'm worried for Red Daughter. I don't think it's going to be that good. I think it's going to be this thing where she's going to come in as basically be this weapon and like a thing for Supergirl to fight, just so she has something to fight that's of similar ability.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because she doesn't seem like she's going to be much of a villain. Because the thing is, we still don't know where she came from. We still don't know how she exists. We don't know what she is. Like, because I assumed that by the end of season 3, she was kind of a result of the time travel that they did. But that might not even be the case. Again, I'm just spitballing there. I don't know because they haven't told us. So I feel like this Red Daughter thing is going to be very underwritten and kind of just something they're going to chuck in at the end.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can probably compare it to Saboteur, really.
Yeah.
You can probably compare it.
We'll have to wait and see next week. She is going to be introduced next week, so we're going to see where that goes, and we're going to have to see if Melissa Benoist can hold doing a Russian accent for many episodes. So anyway, jumping over to Arrow this week, we have Arrow Season 7, Episode 16, otherwise entitled Star City 2040. This was the long-awaited, completely future episode that completely takes place in the future storyline. And we have Mia and William going over to the Glades to try and rescue Felicity. So I think that this episode, obviously, it had a purpose to completely just focus on the future storyline. What has been your opinion on the flash forward so far?
The flash forward concept, I feel like it was interesting. It's good enough. It's good enough. Just I feel like that's it. just good enough. It's not outstandingly great, just good enough.
I think what was interesting about the flash forwards when they first did them is that obviously there was no word about it. Like, nobody knew they were doing it. They didn't announce anything. I remember watching the pilot, and they had obviously who we didn't know at the time was obviously the older version of William traveling to Lian Yu, and I was just like, everyone watching that premiere, we were all just like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? And then eventually when he said that my father was Oliver Queen and you saw an old Roy, I was just like, wow, like my mind was blown by that. And I think every episode of the flash forwards in the early episodes in the first half of the season had like a big reveal moment where
it did.
Yeah, where like each episode you kind of walked away from it thinking about that and not really thinking about how good they were in their own right. And then in the back half of the season, these flash forwards have kind of slowed down for me because they haven't been doing that. And I think this is kind of a statement that goes for Arrow as a whole this season, is they really did a lot of big moments in the first half, especially with the prison arc and things like that. It was really heavy hitting in that first half of the season, and it feels like the second half of the season, while it's still been great, has slowed down quite a bit because of that. And I feel like that kind of goes for the flash forwards. But overall, I've actually quite enjoyed the flash forwards. I think it's an interesting idea. It does kind of compromise the show story-wise sometimes because they have to line up things, and they've revealed obviously certain characters are just never going to die, so it doesn't matter, and things like that. Like, obviously we know Diane's never going to die, Renee's never going to die, Roy's never going to die, because Roy is coming back in episode 20. Don't know if you know that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really matter anyway because of season 5 or season 8.
So. Yeah. I mean, obviously at that point, do you think we're going to get flash forwards next season?
No, I don't think so, because it's only because it's because it's a shorter season. So I feel like because it's a short season, so they probably want to tell the main story, like put all their attention to the main story.
Yeah, I think they might take the season 6 route and just do no flashbacks or flash forwards at all. Just completely focus on the main story like season 6 did. But I think, this episode really focused on the character of Mia Smoke, which is obviously Oliver and Felicity's daughter. We get to see the birth of Mia, which is the only scene in this episode where we actually get Oliver.
Yeah. No, actually, no. We got him at the beginning. Was it the end? Did we get him at the end?
No, the only scene with him is that beginning. He has one line, and that's it. That's the only actual bit of Oliver we have in this episode. And then we get to see Mia kind of grow up throughout the years. And what I really liked was the little surprise cameo we got. We got Katrina Law returning as Nyssa Al Ghul. She is actually the one who trained Mia, which I didn't expect. I thought that was pretty cool. Again, that confirms that Nyssa is still around in the future. She's still alive. So that's nice to know. I didn't expect Nyssa to train her. I mean, this isn't like a big nitpick. I just found it kind of strange because obviously the way Nyssa would fight, obviously being a member of the League of Assassins, being the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, is, very much with finesse and, that very technical fighting style. But when we met Mia back in episode 8, obviously as a cage fighter, she came across a bit more of like a brawler to me. So like when I kind of saw that Nyssa trained her, I kind of felt like that didn't really line up. But anyway, that's not a big nitpick.
I get what you mean.
Yeah, it just
funny you mentioned. Oh, sorry.
No, it was just kind of weird.
You mentioned Nyssa. Do you watch Gotham?
No, but I know they've just introduced her, haven't they?
Yeah, they just introduced her. Like, it's funny because now they have essentially two versions of Nyssa. Well, I'm pretty sure though. At the beginning of Gotham season, what season are we on now? 5. That they said they were going to introduce Talia. I'm pretty sure. I don't know, but I don't know. It seems like we have Nyssa instead.
Yeah, I never got into Gotham. Like I tried to. I've watched like half of season 1 and I dropped off. And I actually did start watching the first couple episodes of season 5 because I do want to watch the series finale. I do want to watch that.
Yeah, because Batman's gonna be in it.
Yeah, I do want to see because it's like a 10-year time jump, and I do want to see kind of where they go with that. But yeah, I just could never get into Gotham. It was kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for me as well. I never got into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Never been into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Again, like Gotham, I found season 1 kind of boring. But what's annoying is both Gotham and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are apparently amazing in their kind of further
Now,
seasons.
let me tell you this. Yeah, let me tell you this. Shield. Okay, yeah, I understand why people say they they don't watch it based off of season one, but trust me, season four and season five are two of the best seasons of not just in superhero, not just in comic book shows, but in opinion, season four and season five, they just you have to give it a chance. Like I would say, um, for season one because they will get. Trust me, season two, season three, it gets better literally every season. But apart from, I would say season four is the best season, but season five was still very good nonetheless. But yeah, it gets better every season apart from season four and season five. And you have to just give it a chance. Just give it a chance.
Thing is,
Because
it's on Amazon Prime, so I might go and give it another go. Because I do really want to watch it, especially because I've heard so many good things. And I don't really have any Marvel TV shows to watch anymore after all the Netflix ones were cancelled. So I kind of
yep.
need, I kind of need something. So maybe I will, especially after watching Captain Marvel and seeing Coulson again. I miss Coulson.
I love seeing Coulson in the movies because it just reminds you that all these things are connected, even though they don't cross over all the time. But yeah, the TV and the movies are still in the same universe. Like seeing Coulson because he's essentially the main connection between the TV and the movies.
Yeah, I'll have to give it another go.
Should
But I think you know, bringing in this was just a nice little cameo. Now, what was kind of going on in this episode is we had Mia and William getting into the Glades because they had to try and tackle this bomb threat that was going on and trying to find Felicity. And they also had Connor Hawke coming in as well. I have to say, I'm still very, very confused about the whole Connor Hawke situation. You know, the fact, because obviously we now know it's Diggle's adopted son, and he is the son of Bronze Tiger.
yeah.
I mean, what's going to happen to Bronze Tiger? Because something's got to happen to him.
Yeah, I feel like in that Bronze Tiger is gonna die somehow.
Yeah, he must do. Which I think is a real shame because I honestly think Bronze Tiger has been one of the standouts of this season. Like he's been incredible in the prison arc, especially episode 7, which I still think is the best episode of this season so far.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Michael Jai White has done an incredible job. So the fact that they're gonna have to like kill him off for the sake of this story, which this is what I mean when I said earlier about the future sometimes compromising the story. Now they're gonna have to. I mean, again, I'm just assuming that they're gonna kill him. Yeah. They're gonna have to kill him at some point, likely this season, to line up with that, and then Diggle's gonna have to adopt him. So I just find that a bit strange. But I have to say, I really like Connor Hawke though as a character. I really like him.
They could kill him off next season.
They could do, but I feel like, again, like you say, with the shorter episode count, will they have time for something like that?
Yeah, that's true.
But I do like Connor Hawke. Also, we do find out as well, like, because Mia is actually revealed to be like an archer in this as well. She was trained in the art of archery by Nyssa, and she was given her bow and arrow by Nyssa. What I liked as well is that obviously Mia kind of fights very similarly to Oliver, but with Connor, like he doesn't fight like Diggle necessarily. He's not like the new Spawn. I think he fights kind of like Nightwing, because he has like these two like sticks that he uses. It's kind of like Nightwing.
So
I think that's pretty cool. But we actually see that Connor actually works for what is described as a good version of Argus. I think it was called Nightwatch, and he's going undercover with Galaxy One to try and figure out this whole bomb thing going on. So Galaxy One is a company that they break into in this episode, and they are a front for Eden Corps. And Eden Corps is the company who are planning this bomb, this bombing of Star City, and they were going to blame it on Felicity, and they're the ones who faked Felicity's death. This whole storyline I thought kind of came out of nowhere, but it was kind of interesting that it was kind of all connected in this way, and the fact that Renee was kind of aware of all of it is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, wasn't it Felicity created? Which one was it now? Which one was it that Felicity created?
Felicity's created Archer, which is like this. It's like that big connected kind of, network thing.
Yeah. Wait. So wasn't it Archer that was behind it, or?
No, it's Eden Corps. who are behind the bombing, and then Galaxy 1 is essentially a front for them, like a facade for them. But I thought it was interesting. Like, what's happened to Renee in these like 30 years? Because
that's what I'm thinking. Like, it seems pretty interesting because obviously right now everyone's cool. So I'm intrigued to find out what happened, why they divided. I feel like it has something to do with Oliver.
Yeah, it must do. I mean, it's weird because Renee, especially like when you look at him now, he's the one who's like kind of the most gung ho to be a vigilante and to be, you know, the guy out there saving the city. And now he's kind of like, he's almost like a borderline villain.
Complete opposite.
Yeah, like he's like completely reversed on everything he stands for. So I'm just curious as to what happened to him.
Maybe it has something to do with Emiko. You know how he believes in Emiko so much, and you know how Emiko is obviously not as she says who she says he is. She's secretly working for the villain. Maybe Renee probably has a change of heart about metahumans. No, yeah, I just said metahumans. About vigilantes. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, what's interesting as well is that in these flash forwards, there are a few characters who have kind of not been either shown nor mentioned, and they've not actually mentioned Emiko yet. She's not been name dropped, and I thought maybe Renee would have done it. I mean, granted, we've only seen Renee twice in these flash forwards. It was episode 10 and then this episode. So there wasn't really much time, but given the fact that Renee, out of all the characters, is kind of the closest to Emiko, even more so than Oliver, maybe there would have been some kind of reference, which it makes me kind of wonder how long of a lifespan Emiko is going to have. Like, is she just going to be in this season? Like, is she going to die at the end of this season? Potentially. I mean, you know, it depends what kind of story and lifespan they have planned for her going forward.
I feel like she's only going to be in this season. I don't see it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's coming, especially because she is working with Dante and the Ninth Circle. I feel like, you know, the fact that she is basically a villain. I mean, we still don't know what extent that is. We still don't know how she knows Dante or, you know, why they have a connection. But, you know, if she is kind of connected to this villain circle, we could see her die by the end of the season.
I feel... Yeah, she probably will die. Maybe she's playing, you know, both sides. She's trying to trip across the villain, or she had like a Black Siren thing where she redeems herself, but then she just dies at the end of the season. Maybe the villain will kill her at the end of the season. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. Like if he finds out that maybe like she did triple cross him, maybe she would kill him, or maybe he would kill her. Especially because I believe Emiko in the comics, like she is very much known for that.
Yeah, It's funny you said that. Because I was reading this Green Arrow comic. I think it was at the time it was the latest Green Arrow run, or the year before. I can't remember. But it was basically a storyline between Oliver and Emiko. And Emiko, she was essentially like we're seeing now. She was double crossing. She was playing both sides. So, to Oliver, she was like the hero, but behind, you know, in secret, she was like working with other villains. Like that's probably I feel like that's where they're taking inspiration from. That story, I can't remember the exact storyline. I'm not even sure I finished it, but I just remember reading an issue where that happened.
Yeah, I remember just like reading about it and hearing about it. So I feel like, you know, if they are going to follow the sort of Ninth Circle storyline, which I think they are, especially with what they've done with Diaz, I think they are going to do that especially because like Diaz isn't dead. No, because I think I know the Ninth Circle in the comics, their kind of initiation process is to burn their members. So
how do you think he survived then? Because
I don't know, but I feel like we're going to see Diaz return later on in the season, especially because what you got to remember about Diaz as well is that he's a series regular this season, and I feel like and I thought that his storyline was going to be the Ghost Initiative, but that was very quickly disbanded. So I feel like he's got to have something else, and I feel like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be that, and especially because obviously, like I say, in the comics, the Ninth Circle, they burn their victims, they burn their members to kind of show their loyalty and their their connection to the Ninth Circle. And I feel like we're going to see Diaz return within the next couple of weeks, maybe. And he's going to obviously look very deformed, very different. Like, if you actually know what Dante looks like in the comics, I think that's what Diaz is going to look like. And we're going to see him be a member of the Ninth Circle with Dante and also with Emiko.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I actually thought Diaz was dead, but clearly I'm wrong.
Well, he could be. But the thing is, Kirk Acevedo, who plays him, has kind of been teasing on Twitter about it, and there's been no official statement saying that Kirk Acevedo has left the series, because normally when a series regular leaves, there's like a statement about it. Like,
there is, yeah, that's true.
Because you remember, like, even a few weeks ago when Echo Kellum left, there was a statement about it and things like that, and Echo Kellum officially came out and said he left.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kirk Acevedo hasn't said anything like that, and there's been no official statement from the CW saying he's gone. So I think he'll come back. I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, fair enough. Okay, now I'm convinced that he's not dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. When he first, well, in air quotes, died, I was completely convinced he was dead, and then I started thinking about it, and I just thought, there's a bit more to this than I first thought. But what other sort of talking points do you want to have in this episode? Because obviously, like, Felicity, we do actually see Felicity in the future in this episode. We do finally meet her. She's completely the same. Like, she's not changed at all.
Yeah. Despite all the future people saying that she went rogue. But anyway, there was an explanation for that, saying that she had to infiltrate. Well, she had to work for. Keep forgetting. Who was she working for again?
Well, I think she was working solo, wasn't she?
Yeah, I thought she was working. Wait, was she working solo?
She said that she said to Mia that she's been working solo the past few years, because obviously of the rise of vigilantes and kind of like with the SCPD not wanting vigilantes anymore. I think like she went just undercover and went on her own thing, because she's taken up the mantle of the Calculator now. She's no longer Overwatch.
Yeah, that's it. The Calculator. Yeah. That's it. But obviously, the Calculator was known to be a bad guy. So
yeah. So Felicity, like, it surprised me the fact that she's literally exactly the same. Because like I say, Renee's very different. Dinah seems a lot more damaged. Roy's very, very different. But like, she's just exactly the same.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Go on. I was finished.
One thing that this episode essentially confirmed to us without actually mentioning it is that Oliver is definitely dead.
Yeah, it's very apparent at this point that Oliver is dead. I mean, the question is now is when is he going to die? Obviously, the theory is he's going to die in Crisis this year. That's likely. I mean, Mia is going to be born around the beginning of the season 8, I think. That, kind of time scale wise, that's where it works out to, I think. And obviously Oliver is there for the birth. We see that.
Yeah.
But it seems like Mia never had a relationship with him, so he must die pretty soon after that.
So you think Oliver's going to die after the birth of Mia?
Yeah. I think he's going to die very soon after that. Because, again, Mia, the way she talks about it, it seems like she never had a relationship with him. I could be wrong. I could be interpreting that wrong, but that's the way I'm reading it anyway.
Essentially, you're saying he's going to die early on in season 10 of Arrow.
Season 8.
Season 8.
Well, I don't know. I don't think early on in season 8. Like I say, I think Mia is going to be born potentially in the season premiere. Because, like I say, around the time when Felicity announced she was pregnant, I did the maths. I did sort of 9 months from that point on, and it led to, it was around like the first week of October, which is obviously when the shows typically start. So I think we're going to see Mia born potentially in the season premiere, and then we're going to see Oliver. Obviously, they're going to have the story, they're going to have the season, we're going to get to the crossover, and if he does die in the crossover, that'll only be like 9 weeks after Mia is born, so Mia wouldn't know who he is after that.
I think he's going to die in the crossover, because it'll be very stupid if they kill him off in the first half of season 8.
Oh yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
Arrow's final season. Your main character is not even there for half the season. That's pretty stupid. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that he's definitely dead after Mia is born, 100%. But it's not when is it? It's not like as soon as Mu is born, then he's gonna die because he's gonna die. Something it's gonna be something related to Crisis.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they are. I mean, obviously, there's no confirmation Oliver's going to die in the crossover. There's no confirmation he's dead. But it'd be interesting if they killed him in the crossover, because obviously they wouldn't actually kill him on Arrow. Because I feel like for people who obviously only potentially watch Arrow, like for example, like my dad, for example, like he doesn't watch any of the Arrowverse shows other than Arrow, like, and he doesn't watch the crossovers or anything like that. So if he dies in the crossover, then a lot of people will probably just like tune back in the next week and be like, oh, Oliver's dead.
I'm sure not. The thing is, they can kill him off in the Arrow episode. Like the Arrow episode can be the finale of the Crisis event. They'll kill him off in that way. You know, the viewers of Arrow will know that Oliver's dead.
I think what they might do is they might have, because the crossover from Elseworlds was episode 9. I think they might do the crossover in episode 9 again. I think Crisis might be episode 9 of all the shows, and then episode 10 will be like the funeral, and it will be like this big thing where like they bring back like they'll bring back Thea, they'll bring back Curtis, they'll bring back all these people, you know, all the Arrow characters who are kind of still alive and out in the world to kind of celebrate Oliver's life. I think that's what they might do.
Funny you said that. I made a video literally last week, exactly what you just said. 4 ways Arrow can end.
Yeah,
I literally mentioned it. I literally mentioned everything you just said there, and I feel like that's probably what they're gonna do. Oliver's gonna die in the Arrow episode of Crisis, and then the following week, episode 10, because I think Crisis is gonna be episode 9. So episode 10 would be the memorial, the funeral, and it'll be like a series of flashbacks, or you know, a celebration essentially of the past 8 years.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how they're gonna play it. I think the question is as well, like another character who we haven't seen in the future yet is Diggle.
That's another one.
Do you think Diggle is gonna die? Like,
that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Because I've been saying Diggle's gonna die for like the past 2 years, and I've been wrong. So I'm wondering, is he gonna die with it by the time this show's end?
I've been saying Diggle's gonna die since season. What was it now? Since season 3.
Yeah.
Diggle's gonna die because he feels like someone. The thing about Diggle, it's funny because he feels like someone that the show would kill off. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He has a close relationship with the main character, and he's been there since the beginning. So I feel like, because I don't know, it's a tough one. Both Oliver and Diggle, that's the question. Because as of right now, we're both agreeing, that Oliver is 100% dead.
Yeah.
So will they kill off Diggle as well? I don't know. They could.
I feel like if we do get that kind of funeral episode that we've just spoke about, it'd be really nice to have Diggle there. But it's because the way Connor kind of talks as well makes me seem that maybe Diggle might be. It's not as obvious as Oliver. But I feel like, again, there is a possibility there, especially because he's the one we haven't seen. Like, he's the one character. Because I'm not surprised that we haven't seen Oliver, but Diggle I am a little bit. Maybe because episode 19 of this season is a Diggle focused episode. Maybe we might see him then, if we have flash forwards in that episode. Maybe, but who knows? I like I say, I've been saying they'll kill Diggle for ages. I was really convinced last season it was going to happen, especially because Diggle kind of had a connection to Diaz last season, and I thought maybe, especially when Diaz kind of became the main villain, I thought, here we go. But he made it through, and I feel like maybe, to use a really terrible reference, maybe Diggle's death is past its use by date. Like maybe it's too late now to do it, and you might as well just leave him alive for the rest of the show.
Yeah, another person we haven't seen in the flash forwards is Laurel.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And again, that raises a question as to where Laurel is. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there is a rumor that Katie Cassidy is leaving this season because Katie Cassidy has cut her hair recently.
Her hair, like, proper short.
Yeah. Which, again, that might just maybe Laurel just gets a haircut. That could happen, but it seems a bit suspicious because it is very, very short.
Hold on. Let me go on her
Yeah, if you
Instagram
go on
right
her
now.
Instagram, you can see it. It's very very different. Because yeah, we haven't seen Laurel in the flash forwards either, which is interesting.
Yeah, oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, I seen this. I saw this picture the other day.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I
That's
mean,
true.
we're getting a very Laurel focused episode in episode 18 because that's the Birds of Prey episode, and Sarah is coming back in that episode as well.
Yeah,
So maybe there might be an exit around there. I don't think they'll kill her because
yeah,
that'd be
Laurel.
suicide because the reason why Black Siren is on this show is because they killed Earthborn Laurel. Like that's the
Yeah,
only reason why she's on this show. So
yeah, that
it'd be
is the reason.
stupid for them. So yeah, I
Maybe she
go on.
will probably just go somewhere. If she does leave the show, maybe she'll go maybe back to Earth 2 or I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, she could go. Yeah, she could go back home. It's interesting, yeah, that Laurel hasn't showed up yet. I mean, and again, sort of no mention of it, especially from like Felicity as well, because Felicity. Maybe we might do now that Felicity's been introduced, but Felicity has obviously become very close with Laurel this season,
Yeah.
and I've really
Yeah.
liked that dynamic. So maybe we might get some hints. I don't know, but yeah, it seems like Katie Cassidy might be leaving this season. Maybe, who knows?
Okay, here's another question. Who do you think is the bearer Laurel? Black Siren or Laurel, the actual Laurel, Earth One Laurel?
Why do you do this to me? Um, Honestly, I think Black Siren.
I agree. I think Black Siren's better.
She's more interesting because Laurel, to be fair, like obviously I'm obviously a massive Arrow fanboy. I mean, we both are, but I mean, even I can say I didn't like Laurel in season one. I thought she was very annoying. Laurel only got good for me in season two when they did the alcoholic storyline because I actually started to feel something towards her then. And I do agree that she was cut very short on the show, especially in season four when she died. But Black Siren, she has like this energy and this feistiness and this kind of, because she used to be a villain, so she has this kind of tendency to be a bit more hard edged than Earth One Laurel was.
Yeah, I agree.
So I like
It's
that.
funny. You started to like Laurel in season two because I feel like Laurel was okay in season one,
Yeah, she was alright. She was
but
fine.
but in season two, like the first half of season two, I feel like I didn't like her at the first half of season two. And then she became alright again, but I feel like she was just pushed to the back when they started pushing for Felicity.
Yeah.
They just pushed her to the back, and then like she had potential, but when Felicity became a thing, it just ruined any chance of Laurel actually shining.
Yeah, because it's very, very obvious to me, especially when you look at season one, that Oliver and Felicity, or Oliver and Laurel were going to be together again
Yeah.
at some point. But then because of the
Yeah.
whole Felicity thing, because of how popular she became, because one of the most interesting facts for me with Arrow is that Felicity was only ever intended to be a one episode character. And that's crazy to me when you look at how big of a part of the show she is now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I remember hearing that one time. Imagine if they actually stuck with that, and we only
Yeah.
had one episode with Felicity. Imagine like what would the show would literally be completely
It'd be
different.
so different. Yeah, it'd be a completely different show. Like, because obviously every kind of superhero team needs the guy in the chair or girl in the chair.
Yeah.
So who would that like? Would we have gotten Curtis like much earlier on in the show?
Probably,
Like,
probably.
and we would have seen Oliver and Laurel. Would we have the child? Would we have Mia?
Thing is, yeah. The thing is, the guy in the chair didn't actually become like a common thing until Arrow.
Yeah,
If you because before Arrow, I don't remember like something that these shows actually do. So I think Arrow is the one that actually introduced the idea, and then obviously all the other shows adapted it. We had obviously Flash, obviously Agents of Shield. Technically, they do kind of have guys in the chair because they do have like people who stay back behind and all this tech stuff. Shows they follow on from even in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Do you remember when Ned was talking about a guy in the chair?
yeah.
Yeah. You see, I feel like Arrow kind of started that trend. So, and I feel like that was down to Felicity. So I feel like if Felicity was not part of the show, they might not even have a guy in the chair.
Yeah, I mean, the superhero landscape could be completely different. Damn, maybe Felicity had so much more impact than we first thought. Wow.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If Felicity wasn't there, like, if Felicity was a one-off character, I can guarantee you right now, Earth One Laura will still be alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Earth One Laura will still be alive. That means we're gonna have Black Siren. Well, the thing is, we probably would have.
But yeah, but she would have just remained as like a one-off villain on the Flash.
What else?
Because that's what a lot of people forget as well. That Black Siren comes from the Flash. Like a lot of people forget that now. Because obviously she was just a one-off villain in season 2. Like I remember, like for example, like my dad, like I said, he only watches Arrow. So like when Laurel came back, he was so confused, and he still doesn't quite understand the whole multiverse thing. So I think he kind of just sees it as Laurel's back. But yeah, it's kind of weird the fact that she started off as just this one-off villain on the Flash, and then as soon as the writers realized all the backlash that we're getting from killing Laurel, they were like, oh well, luckily, coincidentally, the Flash has another version of Laurel. We'll just pick her up and bring her onto our show.
Of course, there's going to be backlash. Like, Black Canary is literally the Green Arrow's main character.
Yeah,
there'll be a huge backlash. I don't know what they were thinking, but
I'm surprised they haven't made Felicity Black Canary. To be honest,
there was rumors about that a few years ago. They were going to make Felicity Black Canary. Thank God they didn't, though.
Yeah. I literally thought around season 5, I was like, this is going to happen. I could just see it happening, but thankfully we got Dinah. But I thought that was going to happen. I was so convinced.
I never thought it was going to happen, but yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of saw it coming. I just kind of felt like, given the fact that Laurel was now dead and Felicity was kind of after season 4, where she was at her worst, I was like, oh no, like it's gonna go worse now, isn't it? But luckily they didn't, and we got Dinah instead, who I love. Anyway, what else was in this episode? Is there any? Oh, I'll tell you an interesting talking point. The scene when Dinah, Zoe, and Roy go to shake down that cop, and Roy has a bit of a rage outburst.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Who knows? Maybe he still has a bit of the Mirakuru.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is there still a bit of Mirakuru in his blood? Because, I mean, obviously, Roy, there's a lot of unanswered questions with Roy at the moment, because when we met him at the beginning of the season, he was exiled on Lian Yu. We don't know why. We don't know what happened to him. Even in this episode, like, Renee says, I thought you were dead. Like, I didn't know you were alive. So, like, what happened to Roy? And, like, where, like, did he, with these, I feel like this scene where he has this outburst, that's going to come back at some point. Like, that's going to come back, and we're going to find out that had something to do with it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you saw my tweet this morning about this. Did you see my tweet about this earlier?
No.
Okay, so this is a theory I came up with this morning for Roy. And I don't want to say this to you because this might heavily distress you. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But my theory is, and this would be very, very dark for Arrow, I think, so they might not go this far. What about if the reason why Roy exiled himself to Lian Yu was because he had a rage-induced moment and he accidentally hurt or killed Thea?
I hope not.
Because, like, in episode 2 of the season, when William brings up Aunt Thea, he's very, very, like, agitated by that. Like,
I remember that.
He doesn't want to talk about it. He's like, no, like, let's just move on. He'll, like, changing the subject. It seems like it's a very personal hurt thing for him. So
I remember.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it's possible because with the way they are, you can't really. Where's Thea?
Yeah,
they won't just separate like that.
Like, they need to explain this in episode 20 because Roy is coming back into the present day in episode 20, and that episode is called Confessions. Like, they need to in that episode they need to explain where Thea is, because the last time we saw Thea, she was with Roy. They left together with Nyssa. They need to explain what happened there, and I feel like, given the fact that episode's called Confessions, we might. I don't know. I don't think
Thea's gonna die because they wouldn't kill her off screen.
I would hate that. That would be awful if they killed her off screen. That would be so disrespectful to the character and to Willa Holland to kill her.
Yeah,
that'd be
exactly. So I feel like they probably just had a disagreement, something like that.
Yeah, like I said, maybe not killed. Maybe he hurt her. Maybe.
That's probably more reasonable.
Yeah, and then obviously he just couldn't forgive himself after that, and he didn't. So he just left and exiled himself to Lian Yu. But then it's interesting because clearly Felicity knew that he was there because she sent William that. I don't know. There's so many unanswered questions with Roy. But hopefully we will start to get those answered when he comes back later this season.
Yeah.
But is there anything else in this episode you want to talk about?
I think we covered everything. Actually.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So overall, good episode of Arrow overall. I remember when I first watched it, I kind of came out of it a little bit underwhelmed. I think it's because the ending fell kind of flat for me with where Felicity. Oh yeah, so there you go. Felicity actually does launch Archer at the end of the episode in the present day. And that kind of fell kind of flat to me. There's not really much to talk about in regards to that because we still don't really know what Archer is, and also we don't know how it's going to kind of fold into the plot. But overall, I thought it was a decent episode.
Okay. One more thing I just remembered. So regarding with Felicity, so when they meet up in the future, people like Dinah and Renee, they are aware that Felicity has a daughter. So my question is Felicity gonna give birth to Mia at the start or the end? Because it wouldn't make sense for Felicity to give birth at the start of the season and then the whole of Team Arrow being completely oblivious to the fact that she's actually having a baby.
Yeah, see, that's what's weird. Like, it seems like some people know and some people don't. Like, because Renee doesn't know, because he said, I didn't know that you and Oliver had a kid.
Yeah.
So, like, there's that, but I don't know if Roy and Dinah did know.
I don't think Dinah knew. I'm not sure about Roy. Or maybe. No. I don't think he knew because when Mia revealed that she was Felicity's daughter, all of them were shocked. So yeah. I don't think none of them knew. So I feel like Felicity, she must have given birth to Mia probably toward the end of the season. Otherwise, it's either that or she doesn't meet up with the team at all in the whole of season 8.
Well,
which is kind of hard to believe.
At the beginning of this episode, like, obviously, she gives birth to Mia in that, like, house that they're in.
Yeah.
And obviously, Mia grew up in that house. We see that. And Felicity was in that house for many, many years. I think it is very possible that maybe, especially because there's a lot more to talk about in this episode, but, like, at the end of the episode, I'll come back to what we were just talking about, but at the end of the episode, they kind of hint that Felicity is involved in Oliver's death / disappearance.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
So, like, was she, after all that went down, did she move to, did she just go and live in that place forever for, like, 30 years? Like,
I don't know. It's a tough one.
Arrow has been so difficult to predict this season, which is strange because I thought season 6 was very, very predictable, whereas I just have not been able to call 7 at all.
Yeah, it's strange.
Anyway, before we get ourselves too caught up in all these webs, let's move over to The Flash, season 5, episode 16, otherwise entitled. What was this episode called?
I don't know.
Time Bomb. That's what it was called. So obviously this kind of deals more with the Cicada being Grace storyline. Obviously we were touching on this earlier, and the main storyline of this episode is we have Grace going around carrying on Orland's mission to take out all the metahumans, and she's specifically targeting a metahuman in this episode who was at the scene of her parents' murder. What do you think about Grace as Cicada? Like, what do you think about her character?
Predictable, like we said at the start of this program, I predicted that was going to happen, because obviously that episode where Nora was inside her mind against the metahumans, so it was kind of obvious what was gonna. It was kind of obvious that it was obviously Grace. I don't know. I feel like we need to see more of her.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to see more of her.
Yeah, I think she is a bit more interesting than Orlan, because it seems like that they've they've kind of hinted at this for a while now, but it seems like maybe Orlan was under her control, which I don't really understand how that's the case, but it seems like that's the kind of idea they're going for. Because in this episode, like I said this earlier, but like Chris Klein was so over the top this season, and in this episode, after because he's now no longer Cicada in this episode, he calmed down quite a bit. Like he was very toned down in this episode.
Yeah, he was. I noticed that as well.
So I feel like there was something with that, but she does seem more interesting. She does seem a bit more like she has a bit more reason to be doing what she's doing because she was actually directly affected by this, unlike Orlin, who kind of took it under his wing in a way. She's also a lot more powerful than Orlin was. So that's something. She's a lot more of a viable threat than Orlin was, I think. But speaking of Orlin, like I say, he was a lot more subdued in this episode, which I liked. Because in episode 7 of this season, where we got like the Cicada origin story, like I actually really liked Chris Klein in that episode. I was like, because he actually was normal. He was speaking normally. I was like, this is fine. And in this episode, we kind of got that again.
Maybe I feel like maybe the actor just wasn't able to pull off the him of Orlin being injured, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there is that famous scene in this season where he says all metas will die. Normally, I do my impression of it, but it won't be good on my throat. But yeah, I feel like seeing him more subdued, it just makes him, because if somebody's so over the top all the time, they're not threatening. Like Cicada was never threatening to me. Whereas if you see them actually as a person, you kind of buy them a lot more.
Yeah.
And you got to see that here. But anyway, he dies. As soon as they make him interesting, they kill him off. Because that's what I liked, actually, was the fact that he didn't want Grace to be Cicada. Like, the reason why he was Cicada was to make her life better. And now that she's kind of showed up, her future self has showed up as the next version of Cicada, like, he's not happy about it. And even at, like, the ending of the episode when, you know, she's having that fight against Team Flash, and we actually see Orlin show up at the fight, and he's kind of like tried to talk her down. Like, he doesn't want this for her. Like, he's actually really sad about this, and then she just literally stabs him in the back, quite literally, and kills him.
Mm-hmm. So you think that's the end of Orlin?
Yeah. I mean, he has no purpose now on this show. Like, you know, they're moving on, I think.
Well, it should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
it was a long time coming. Should have been episode 11. Yeah, this whole storyline was just kind of like, again, it was fine. It was okay. I feel like, again, they're just stretching out the story. That's just the big problem for me. Like, I'm just looking at the Cicada story, and I'm just like, when's it going to end? Like, when's it going to... Because what role is Eobard Thawne going to have? If any at all. Because he's just kind of sat there in the future, not really doing much. But then you have to feel like he's pulling the strings in some way.
Do you think he's responsible for Cicada?
I don't think he's responsible necessarily, because when Grace showed up and Nora went to see him about it, like, he clearly was unprepared for that. Like, he clearly didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, I guess I thought when they kind of reintroduced Eobard Thawne this season, I thought, okay, especially because Cicada never felt like a, you know, season-long villain to me. I thought, okay, they'll kill him off halfway through the season, and then we'll have Reverse Flash for the back half. But that is not the case, so I'm just curious as to what kind of role he has. But I think we're going to see a bit more of that, obviously, now that the cat's out of the bag for Nora. But let's talk about that. So, basically, Sherlock just drops it in front of the entire team, saying that, obviously, Nora has been working with Eobard Thawne. Barry locks her in the pipeline, which I thought was a very interesting reaction, but I actually really liked that. And now Barry kind of feels betrayed because his own daughter has been working with his archenemy. So the cat's now out of the bag. It's now been revealed. So it feels nice, to be honest. It feels refreshing just to have this finally out there.
Yep. I feel like yeah, I probably should have known about this maybe about 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
But I'm interested now because Barry's reaction, that got me a bit hooked, because you know how Barry's usually like reasoning and he's easy to talk to. This one, he put his own daughter in the prison, in the cell.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, that so he must be super not happy about this. So I'm interested to see what he has to say in the next episode.
Yeah, I think it kind of got to this point where Barry was just like, because it's his own daughter, like it's his own blood. He trusts her and he believed in her, and now he finds out that he was, she's working with the man who's kind of caused him the most stress and pain throughout all of his life. Like, I just think like the reason why he locked her in the pipeline, I think he did that because he just didn't know how to process this information, and he just needed to get Nora out so he could just like clear his head. And I think he literally just went, right, get in our prison and just get out of my life for a few hours because I need to think about this. Because like you say, Barry's normally very understanding. He's very very reasonable. But yeah, with this, like he literally was like, he teared up for a bit, and then literally just grabbed her and chucked her in the pipeline.
But that was unexpected. But do you think I don't know if essentially just told everyone what was going on herself?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you think Wells, do you think if Wells hadn't have told the team about Nora's secret, do you think Nora would have told them herself?
Despite I don't know.
Ian Boy?
Because I thought in this episode that she was gonna tell him, because obviously the way they set it all up.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna tell her. I thought she was gonna tell them too.
Like even Earbard told her to tell them, and in this episode you have that metahuman, like where she was keeping a secret from her family that she was a metahuman, and then she revealed it, and Nora had that moment where she saw her reveal, and I thought, okay, here we go, but then Sherlock just comes out and says it, and I was like, oh wow, and I don't think she was going to, because when Sherlock was saying it, like she was saying, Sherlock, stop, shut up, like. Yeah. I don't think she was going to. I really don't. And then and that brings her motivations into question, I think.
How so?
Because we don't know why Nora is working with Eobard necessarily. She says she's there to change the future. She says she's there to stop Cicada. I don't think she is there for malicious reasons. I think she is here genuinely to try and save her dad. But the fact that, she just didn't tell them for all this time, and the fact that she was trying to stop the reveal from happening, I don't know, it just kind of pulls, it kind of like, raises a few eyebrows, I think.
I agree, but to be honest, I have no idea what, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Now we did have like another little storyline going on where we had Ralph basically trying to bring Camilla into Cisco's, like Team Flash life. This, for me, like, this storyline was basically nothing, but it basically is used more, again, as another setup for Cisco leaving the show, I think.
Also,
well, obviously, the biggest rumor in the Flash Season 5 at the moment is that Cisco's leaving the season. And there's been so many hints towards it, with Cisco kind of losing his powers. Obviously, he hasn't lost his powers, but they've been incredibly weakened. And it hurts for him to use his powers. And then the introduction of Camilla, and the metahuman cure and things like that, like all he's talking about this season is how he wants to have a normal life outside of Team Flash. He wants to have a life where he can have a wife, have kids. So I think we're gonna, and obviously with the introduction of Camilla, his new girlfriend, I feel like he's gonna, by the end of the season, they're gonna go off together. He's gonna take the cure, and Cisco's gonna go.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Especially because, like, the way they say, like, like Cisco literally tells Ralph in this episode, keep Camilla out of this. Like, Camilla's the one connection I have that isn't involved with Team Flash and all the superhero stuff. And I want to keep it that way. But then again, she now is working for the Central City Citizen with Iris as a photographer.
I feel like she will eventually know by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. But I feel like it'll get to the point where by the end of the season, like, she'll just accept that. And Cisco's like, I'm moving on. And they'll just go off together.
Yeah, at Cisco.
So it's going to be sad to see Cisco go, because I still don't know. I don't think this show will ever be the same without him.
Definitely, it'll feel very different. Like,
it'll just be because he really is the heart of the show.
He is.
Like, without him, I don't know where and who they're going to replace him with. See, the thing is, I wonder how long the CW have known about Carlos Valdez wanting to leave, because At the very start of the season, I'm talking episode 1, when we first saw Barry's new suit. If you remember, they said, like Nora says in an episode, it was created by Ryan Choi. Do you think we could be seeing Ryan Choi next season?
Possibly. Might be a replacement for Cisco.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because Cisco, obviously, when he saw the season 5 suit, he was like, oh, damn, did I make that? And then she says, no, it was Ryan Choi, who obviously is a version of the Atom. So we could see that. I think, because they are going to have to replace Cisco for, again, having that guy in the chair sort of character. And I feel like Ryan Choi is that replacement. I think we might see him, if not next season, season 7, I think we might see him.
If there is a season 7.
Oh, it will. I think, obviously we're talking about, how long these shows will go. I think Flash will go 10 seasons. I really do.
I think Flash will be the longest running one. Probably go up to maybe 9-10 seasons.
Although, I mean, obviously The Flash is the biggest show on the network. But they're going to have to be careful, because season 5, with these ratings, they're going to have to be careful.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're losing people. Big time. But, I think, this episode, I think this episode was kind of alright all the way through. It had a really good ending. It had a really strong ending, and I think that's why people are kind of talking about this episode quite highly. But, what are your overall thoughts?
Same with me. I feel like it was okay. Nothing too spectacular. Thank God that, part of the Cicada storyline is over. Well, part of it, I mean, Oren, he's gone. Honestly, I'm just waiting for the whole Cicada thing to be over, so that we can get to potentially a new speedster villain like Red Death or Godspeed.
Yeah, I mean, who do you think is going to be the villain?
I think it's going to be Red Death, because they teased it, and this is what they do every season. They name drop the villain. So I honestly think it's going to be Red Death. That's even though we've only got one small mention of him, but they did that with DeVoe. They did that with Avatar. So, and then now they're doing it again. So I think it's going to be Red Death. But the question is Godspeed going to be Red Death?
I think so.
Because I spoke about this with Ben on my podcast a few weeks ago. I think he is. Well, it's a possibility.
I think it's high because, obviously they can't do the actual Red Death from the comics, obviously, because it's Bruce Wayne. But I think what might happen is, because there's a theory as well in this season that Godspeed is going to recur in the back half of this season and have a kind of connection with Team Flash. I think we're going to see him, and we are going to get to know him. And then something's going to happen to him where he's, going to, in air quotes, die. And then we're going to see him come back as the Red Death next season. I think it's very much a possibility that it's Godspeed. Like whichever actor we see actually plays Godspeed in episode 18, which is, bloody hell, that's the next episode. That'll be who the Red Death will be.
I'm actually looking forward to that episode.
Yeah, I am too. I think it could be a really cool one. Obviously, Danielle Panabaker's directing it as well, which is a nice touch. And just finally getting the introduction to Godspeed. Obviously, people have kind of been clamoring for it for a while.
Season 3.
Yeah, so if this character finally is coming, I think it's because a lot of people at the end of season 3 really felt he was coming because they did that Speedster Storm thing.
Yeah, because of that.
Yeah, but anyway, so he's finally coming. So, and he could be the Red Death. He might not be. There is another theory that he is going to be he's going to come back next season just as Godspeed, and he's going to be a new ally for Team Flash, which I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'd have to wait and see how they do it.
It's kind of comic accurate because he was an ally at first, and then he turned on them.
Yeah, but it seems like they could be doing the reverse of that for the show, which could be interesting. Because, I mean, not to the same extent, but Ralph was kind of like that. Ralph kind of started off as being kind of antagonistic and was kind of, him and Barry didn't get on. And now, obviously, he's a firm member of the team. So they could do something like that. I'd be interested to see that. I just find it funny because I mean, obviously, Nora isn't surviving the season, or at least isn't sticking around next season.
That's what I think. Yeah.
So if they need another speedster, then I find it funny. Barry can never have the same sidekick for more than one season, can he? Like season 3 was Wally, he was gone. Season 4, Ralph, gone. 5, Nora, gone. 6 will be Godspeed.
Well, Ralph's still technically there.
Yeah, Ralph's still around, but I mean, like, he's not really like his sidekick, is he? Like in season 4, he was like his sidekick, and now in 5, he's not. He's just kind of doing his own thing. He's more Cisco's sidekick, to be honest, this season.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, decent episode. It was all right for the most part. It just had a really strong ending, and it did give me a little bit of more interest going into the back half of the season, see where they eventually go with this Eobard Dawn thing. Because I really want to see Barry and Eobard interact now.
Me too.
I want to see like what he would say to him and how he'd react to seeing him, because that'd be quite an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's everything reviewed. That's everything done. So that does draw this episode of On the Light Podcast to a close. We'd like to thank you guys for listening and joining us on this conversation. As always, I will leave links to Chris's channel in the description down below, so make sure you go check that out and follow his channel, because he is an awesome guy and does some awesome content. And as always, I've been Dec, as always, and next week Dan is again he'll still be away next week, so I'll have another special guest on. I won't reveal who that is just yet, but I will have another special guest on next week in replacement for that. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope to see you guys again next time.